and happy Wednesday to the world out there. What's up, world? How's it going?
The world seems okay.
Yeah. Well, it depends on what world you're living in, I guess.
From my perspective, it seems fine.
All right, well, gentlemen, ladies, that's Zeb.
Football sort of starts tomorrow.
That's Ross. I'm Sam. We are the Seahawks FanTable Podcast. And, gentlemen, it's training camp, it's Seahawks, and we're back.
We're back. We are
here.
Back.
It's no longer nigh. It has arrived.
Yeah, so it's been a while. We haven't talked on the podcast since the draft. So just after the draft, we had a little technical difficulties. We had some people that weren't able to make it, but we're back. We're happy to kick the new season off. Do you kind of feel like training camp is the start of the new season, or is it like free agency and the draft? Where do you guys line up?
For me, it used to be like the preseason games was actually when it felt real because that was the first sort of visual whatever. But since I got in the habit of going to training camp really makes it feel like, yeah, oddly enough, a Mariners game. Actually, I come over here usually for training camp now, and I usually hit a Mariners game just before. So in a weird way, hitting a midsummer Mariners game kind of indicates like football's back.
Yeah, it kind of feels like football's back, which is always awesome. Zeb, I know you don't have a chance to go to a lot of Seattle Mariner games because you don't live in Seattle, but what about you? How do you feel like the season kind of officially kicks off?
I usually don't feel like the season's kicking off until I get to watch that first preseason game. Everything else feels like off-season to me. But then once I see that first preseason game, then I'm like, okay, well, it hasn't really started yet because this sucks.
There's definitely that sense of longing, right?
Yeah, so it starts on that opening night. Then I feel like football's back. Just a small little side. I haven't been to a Mariners game since the Kingdom.
That's quite some time. I think that's 1997 then.
Yeah, and it was probably more like 1991.
Yeah,
if we're being honest.
That's a long time.
Back when you went to a Mariners game to get some alone time.
Yeah, back when Alvin Davis was out there banging home runs for us.
Yeah, that's even before I started watching baseball, so that's a while.
I'm old.
Yeah, but hey, regardless of when you think the season starts, the 2018 season is officially here. We're here to kick it off with training camp with you, Ross. Ross is going to be attending 5 training camps this season. Going to be providing some updates for us on the forum and on some tweets. Is that correct?
Yeah, I'm going to be giving all the updates with my incorrect predictions and who I think is going to make the team because I'm overly sympathetic to the underdogs. So get ready to hear a lot about underdogs that you're never going to hear from again.
So Ross is going to be all about those undrafted free agents and 7th round picks and having 2 kickers and 2 punters.
I may rename my Twitter thing the Cyril Grayson Twitter livecast.
There we go. I like it. And for those of you who don't remember, Cyril Grayson's burner from last year. But players
He's
are reported
invited this year. He's back in, man.
Well, I'm saying he was on the team last year in camp, and he didn't make the team, but he's hanging around.
Who's this guy we're talking about?
It's a guy from LSU that's a former track guy.
Yeah,
Michael Bates.
Yeah,
Michael Bates incarnation, like part 2, part 3. Nice. If you go way back, he's the Ronaldo Nehemiah.
Oh.
No, nobody knows that. No.
Okay,
sounds biblical.
Ronaldo Nehemiah was like an Olympic athlete in the early '80s and joined the San Francisco 49ers. With his he was like literally like an Olympic athlete for track and joined the 49ers and I think played 3 or 4 years and had like 13 catches.
Dude sounds like a special teamer.
Yeah.
Well,
now I'm aging myself.
Well, players are reporting. Rookies are signed. Coaches are ready to beat the pads with the players. This is the 2018 season with the Seahawks FanTable Podcast presented by Hawkscast. So, gentlemen, we got a bunch of topics to talk about, but there's a few that we're saving for the topics at hand. But a couple things I want to talk about is Cam Chancellor. This is not an official topic for us, but I want to talk about this because, Ross, I know we've talked about this extensively on the podcast, offline, online, on the forum. hawkscast.com. We'll probably hear Ross talk about it also on Twitter. But Cam Chancellor, he hasn't officially retired, but he hasn't been medically cleared to play. It's not the same thing, but it means that he's not playing for the Seahawks in the near term or the future, right?
And what else does it mean?
Well, it means that because of his contract, the Seahawks can't cut him without taking a huge cap hit and still having to pay him money. So from the Seahawks' perspective, they don't really gain anything by cutting him because they'd still own the money, they'd still have the huge cap hit, and if they cut him, they maybe risk bad will against the current players on the team.
I don't think that's the answer Ross was looking for.
There's nothing you can do. There are no awesome options. You're going to pay him no matter what. I think he probably would be amenable to sort of like a buyout. Like, what do they call it?
A medical waiver clear, like where you negotiate like a settlement. Injury settlement.
Waive settled or whatever. Like usually you hear about like sort of like nobodies do that. Like people UDFAs, but you can theoretically do it with somebody like him, and that's probably the best option. Give him like 80% on the dollar, and then clear up a roster spot. You're gonna have to pay it anyway. And there's one more reason you didn't want that contract.
Zeb, what about you? What's your take on the Kim? I mean, obviously there's no good options here, but what'd you hear once you kind of heard some of this news come out?
Until he is officially retired, I'm going to pretend that there's a possibility that he's going to come back and play. That's all I got.
Yeah, I mean, if that happened, I would.
Hey, until that clock hits 000.
Yeah.
So is it the same deal with Cliff Averill then?
No, Cliff Averill is slightly different because he didn't have as many years left on his contract and he didn't have as many guarantees. Because Cliff re-signed, I want to say 3 years ago, because he's been on the team for 5 years. He signed a 2-year deal, and then he signed a 3-year deal, a 4-year deal. So he was in like the last year of his contract. So there was like almost no guarantees. It was all like.
Right. Okay.
So there was like he retired because he was same boat. He was medically uncleared to play, and the Seahawks cut him because there's no penalty against it.
Right.
Yeah.
But with Cam, it's just draining the salary cap. As I wrote on hawkscast.com, the Seahawks actually are committed to paying the most money to the safety position in the NFL this season. And what's doubly awesome is none of the players that are picking up that money are going to be on the field, or not but the top two.
Well, they can't report to camp. That's the problem.
One of them can.
One of them chooses not to report, and one cannot be cleared to get on the field.
So we're paying something like $15 million for safeties that aren't on the field.
Yeah.
That's like 8% of the salary cap for players not on the field.
Yeah, that's true. Before we hopped on, Zeb, you talked about this. This is not super Seahawks related because the player is no longer with the Seahawks. But you talked about the Marshawn Lynch video with Uninterrupted. Tell me about this clip that you saw. Ross, if you haven't heard about it, definitely check it out. It's a video of Marshawn Lynch. But Zeb, talk about this clip.
I wrote about it on the website, man.
Okay, perfect.
I mean, I think it's in typical Marshawn fashion. It's a very candid sort of look at what it was like to both win and lose the Super Bowl for a guy like him. It's thoroughly entertaining, of course, as he always is, and it's funny, and particularly what happened in '48 when we won, and it's a little bit sad and bringing back those unwanted feelings after the loss in '49. But just listening to Marshawn talk is always enjoyable for me, so I'll take as much as I can get.
Yeah, it is awesome. It's great hearing because he's I wrote elsewhere that I don't think it's 100% accurate, but I don't think he's lying. You know what I mean? Like your perception sometimes of something is a little bit different as time goes by.
Yeah, 3 years, 4 years after something happens, you kind of change your perspective a little bit.
But what is awesome is that he's just being completely frank, and that's very, very rare, isn't it? Just to hear somebody just talk about those just completely, like I said, maybe not accurately, but completely honestly.
Yeah, I think my takeaway from it is a little bit of what Ross is saying, that he's being honest, but maybe that's not the feelings he had in the moment, especially with the aftermath of what happened in Super Bowl 49 with the play on the 1 yard line. But it is a case where like maybe that's not what he was thinking like at the moment that many Super Bowls ago, but this is where he's at right now. And the biggest takeaway I had from that is that his faith in Russell Wilson and what he said, which you can't say on radio, even on the internet. He basically said he trusted Russell Wilson in that moment, in that play, regardless of what was called. He trusted him. So that's one of the big takeaways that I got out of that, other than just always being entertained by Marshawn and just always being interested and tuned into what he has to say.
Are you guys thinking that you believe that he was more upset about it in the moment than he's telling us now? Is that kind of what you're getting at?
Okay, so for those who have not heard it, let's give a little context. He describes that play, the infamous play, that they're in the huddle, the play comes in, Russell Wilson calls the play, and he describes like this sort of moment of sort of stunned silence, and people, including, in his words, including even the wide receivers, are looking at him, and he's, because what he's trying to say is everybody expected it to be a call to him. And everybody kind of like looks at Marshawn Lynch, and this is where Sam is coming from. Where Marshawn Lynch is like, hey, you know what? Yeah, I kind of thought I'd get the ball too, but if it's not going to be to me, yeah, I've got complete faith because Russell Wilson does things nobody's ever done before, and I've seen him do that on a weekly basis. So if it's not to me, hey, I believe in the play call. That's cool. So where I come from is I don't necessarily think that like he was as cool with the play calls. Because it's funny. He says like he's all about other people succeeding and everything like that, but we've seen him flip off Darrell Bevel because of play calls not going to him. So it's a little weird to say like he's all in a position like putting others in a position to succeed, and he's totally always cool with it. And also, I really, really, really wonder if when the play call came in, if Russell Wilson was like, "Really, we're not going to give it to Marshawn Lynch," and if really, really, really like Hurst or Baldwin kind of looked at Marshawn Lynch as if to say, "You should get it," because you know what, those guys also want the ball too. Not that they're selfish players, but you don't get to be a high-level athlete without thinking like the ball should be in your hand when it comes down to it, right? Like right. Doug Baldwin is not this Julio Jones prototypical receiver, but he knows what he can do, and I'm sure he would want that play call to him too. And I'm sure Russell Wilson thought it was appropriate that it go to him. Not ego, it's just you can't play any sport at a high level without having that self-confidence. So I really kind of doubt that the whole huddle hearing the play just kind of looked at Marshawn Lynch going, hey, this should go to you. Some people did, I'm sure. Obviously, Richard Sherman did from the sideline, but I don't know if like all the wide receivers went, oh man.
I didn't get that feeling. Maybe I need to watch it again. I thought it was more just like they were stunned that it wasn't happening, not because they were disappointed that it wasn't going to, but just more that they expected it.
Maybe. It could be a bit of a litmus test. Like Sammy came away from it thinking like most impressed with his like faith in Russell Wilson, whereas I thought that didn't really strike me at all. So maybe it's just sort of like it kind of measures what you feel about the players involved anyway from what you take away from the story. I mean, I don't know. I don't know.
All right.
I really, it's like, again, I thoroughly enjoyed listening to it, and I recommend it to anybody. It's easy to find it on our website.
So go to hawkscast.com. It's on the forum. It's on our Twitter at Seahawks Forum. So check it out. We're going to press.
It's probably the most interesting, entertaining thing I've watched about the Seahawks in a couple of years. Just a 5-minute clip.
Of the 5-minute clips you see, I think that's
not non-game time.
Okay. There was a revisionist comment that I was waiting for, but we are going to press along, and we're going to start with topic number 1 because this is the Training Camp Podcast episode today. We're going to talk about what are you most excited for with the 2018 training camp. Ross, you're going to 5 camps this year. What are you most excited for?
Man, this week has really pumped me up. I'm so excited just for the whole thing because I want to see how close this feels like, just sort of like a reincarnation. What I'm most excited to see is not any one position battle or any one thing. What I want to see is the Seahawks success based on a bunch of great players they came upon, or is it a system? If it's a system, even though we've got a bunch of no-names coming in, if it's a successful system, we're going to see something sort of like the rebirth. And it should feel like 2011, 2012, the early eras. Well, yeah, we've got a bunch of people we don't know coming in. But if these really are talented players that we've found it again and the system is intact, if the system works, then we're going to know. And we're going to find out that, you know what, this isn't the end of the road. This is the beginning of the second cycle of the system. And that's what I believe.
This is the first left turn.
Sorry?
It's the first left turn.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, you know, are we sort of like the flash in the pan kind of thing, and then we had our 5-6 years of awesomeness with a great bunch of people, or is this more like the Patriots, where you just believe in the system, you got your quarterback, and you got 1 or 2 other guys you're really going to lock onto, but other than that, the system takes care of itself, and it makes the stars, not stars make the system. And I'm excited to find out, man, starting tomorrow.
So, Zeb, I don't know if you get a chance. So they've been doing a thing where they do like a broadcast. If you go to Seahawks.com, you can watch a little bit of training camp, but they don't really show you a lot. It's mostly like you watch people talk about it because they don't show you the field. They show you like a little bit of drills, but usually it's like a couple people talking about the draft.
Like Tony Ventrella?
Yeah, Tony Ventrella, Dave Wyman, those kind of guys. They're all like just kind of there. What are you excited for with training camp? Because from your perspective, while we've invited you to come join us, you have a schedule that we respect and, you know, you live in a different city, but you don't get to view it like a lot of fans do. Not a lot of fans get to go to training camp. So what are you excited for about an event that you're going to hear about always like after the fact, whether it's through social media or reading it online? What do you hope to get out of, and what are you most excited for?
Well, I've never been to the training camp, so I only ever get what I hear, which up until just a few years ago was pretty much from official outlets. You know, now there's more and more stuff from other fans and people on Twitter and stuff that are going, so it's easier to get information. But I think what Ross mentions is going to be interesting to see how this all plays out now that we're not going to have guys like Sherm and Cam and potentially or probably Earl, seeing if the younger guys are able to step up and, you know, like he said, if it's the system, if we can kind of just plug new guys in and have it work as well as it has been, it'll be interesting to see if that's the case. I typically don't get any real beef until I get to watch the first preseason game. But what I'm interested to see is if and how this team is going to be able to come together. Like if everything seems real separated and, you know, we don't necessarily know what the identity is at this point when we've gotten so used to the identity we had before that. So I'm looking forward to seeing how things develop, relationships between players, that sort of thing, and just seeing who kind of emerges as the new young leaders. I don't know if we're going to get much of that during training camp, but I imagine we'll see some sort of stuff like that.
Yeah, I think that's the thing that while there's a lot of things that you can kind of get access to, you can kind of see, there's a lot that fans will never know about because it's not reported online. It's not something that we have access to. Ross, you know, we've been to multiple training camps, and for those of you that haven't had a chance or haven't seen a feed of it, when the Seahawks are out on their fields, there's 3 fields, one going north to south, and then 2 going east-west, kind of. But usually what happens is the quarterbacks are always on the furthest field, and the defense is always the field closest to the fans, and then special teams is like relegated to like the 3rd field that people don't look at. So you don't get the best look at stuff unless you bring binoculars or if you get there early enough to kind of see. So there's definitely the aspect of like you get to see the culture, you get to see the environment. It's lively music. They've got a DJ that's playing and got all kinds of like high energy stuff going. You see the coaches on the field with the players doing drills with them. So you definitely get that sense and that energy, which is awesome. But there's a lot of things that maybe you won't be able to see. Like you'll be able to see like, oh, Russell Wilson's taking these snaps. Who's the first team that he's taken snaps with? That's like one of the few things that maybe you get insight to. But with all this roster churn and a lot of new players, it will be interesting to see, Ross, for you especially, if you're going to be able to take the chance to say like, all right, that guy that just had that good block, who's that guy? I don't know him. Like, having that roster sheet's going to be huge, and I think that's something that maybe people would never realize, because if you're just looking at Twitter, you're just getting like the high level the shots. So it will be interesting to see how this training camp differs from last ones, because Ross, I think we've been to like 5 or 6 together, I want to say.
I want to say maybe 5, actually.
Maybe
4?
5. I mean, I remember we went to it when it was Charlie Whitehurst, so...
Dude, my first underdog awesome prediction, Josh Portis, man.
Yeah, I remember
Nice.
that.
I was like, Josh Portis is like the next great free agent Seahawks quarterback. Yeah.
Yeah. Shows what we know.
I was like, there was Jim Zorn, there was David Craig, and now it's gonna be Josh Portis. Dude, he looked so legit his first day of training camp, except for his little scrawny like junior high sophomore legs. Other than that, he looked totally legit. Didn't he, Sammy? I mean, you weren't as high on him, but you thought he looked okay.
Yeah, I thought he looked good for the backup. I mean, I'll be honest, I can't even remember. I can't even remember if this was like if this was a Hasselbeck year or a Tavares Jackson.
It was the year after. It was like Tavares Jackson. Oh, you know what? You're right. It was Matt Hasselbeck's last year.
Was it his last year with Charlie Whitehurst?
Yeah. So I don't know.
So that was Carroll's first year.
2010, yeah.
Yeah.
So one of the last things that I remember about Matt Hasselbeck was, and Ross, I remember vividly talking to you about this because it was the first camp with Charlie Whitehurst. I think that might have been the first year we went, but it was Matt Hasselbeck was just throwing like literally rainbows. They were like, there was not a lot of zip, but they landed perfectly. They were just perfectly placed. It would be like if you were ever to do a drill where you've got these giant like garbage bins lined up through the field, and you can't throw it flat. You have to arc it, kind of like you're shooting a 3 with someone in your face. That was Matt Hasselbeck's throws, and Matt Hasselbeck's a tall dude, so these are just like, just dropping like rainbows into these buckets. And then you see Charlie Whitehurst. Charlie Whitehurst like throwing lasers. Now they're not accurate lasers, but they're like just zipping down the field, and it was really interesting to see that stark difference. And it was always kind of something that I know fans have talked about in regards to Matt Hasselbeck and his arm strength, but seeing it compared to someone else on the field like that, like literally like having them run the same plays, it was really interesting, to say the least.
But also, I mean, it was actually a lesson in why arm strength isn't all it's cut up, it's cranked up to be sometimes. Because, I mean, like visual test, like how he looked in the huddle, awesome flowing hair and his rocket arm. Charlie Whitehurst just looked the part.
They got him many backup contracts. So good for him.
That got him like 10 years of contracts. And I bet if there were more movies about quarterbacks in Hollywood, like Hollywood was making more, he could play that role like over and over again.
Yeah.
Like I'm surprised he didn't show up like in draft day or something.
All right. Well, let's move on because this is kind of continuation into it. This is topic number 2. What will the new look Seahawks look like in their first preseason game? So, Zeb, you talked about how, for you, the season is kind of the preseason game. We don't see the starters play a whole lot, but it's the guys kind of behind them. What do you think that's going to look like?
Crap. Most likely. Like, I feel like the Seahawks under Pete Carroll don't necessarily come out early looking really prepared, or maybe that's years of being spoiled by Holmgren's opening quarter, which was usually, particularly on offense, a well-oiled machine. I don't know, with all the change that's gone on with the players in the field and the coaches and everything. I expect to see some sort of, it's going to be kind of messy. I think that's what I expect. If it's better than that, I'll be super happy. But I'm going into it with tempered expectations. And I expect to see a lot of speed, a lot of guys, to use the cliche, flying around. Young guys who are excited to be back on the football field, but I don't expect to see a lot of discipline right out the gate. So but that sounds exciting to me. So I'm definitely looking forward to it.
Ross, what about you? So the first preseason game, it's 15 days away. It's on a Thursday in Seattle against the Indianapolis Colts. It's going to be the first time Andrew Luck will actually take the field, supposedly. So what are you expecting to see in this new look Seahawks?
I'm hoping that Richard Sherman's stuff is all wrong. That he said that Pete Carroll's kind of lost it's all a competition ways and so on like that. And I hope he brings that back and it keeps that kind of company culture in place. What I expect to see is a bunch of really, really hungry young men doing what they love the best they can, knowing and appreciating the chance they have and going out there to make a living, but also to make a statement. Because they know they're inheriting a team that's been really, really good for a long time. And they know everybody's saying they're not the same. You're not Richard Sherman. You're not Cam Chancellor. You're not this guy. You're not that guy. But it's the chance to be that person. It's a chance to take that person's job. I mean, you know what? All those super guys, all those all pros, a lot of them when they came to Seattle, they weren't anything either. Richard Sherman was a 5th-round draft pick, and Michael Bennett was underappreciated. That's why he had to sign with Seattle. And Cam Chancellor was a 5th or 6th. These aren't mostly high-round draft picks they're replacing, the legends they're replacing. So you know what? As they always say, why not you?
Yeah.
So I'm expecting them to make the most of the opportunity and to be motivated.
I think the most interesting thing about this quote-unquote new look will be the fact that the offense and the defense, to some degree, will hopefully kind of look different in the fact that it is going to be a Ken Norton Jr. defense led by linebackers that hopefully will resemble something a little bit more with what Pete Carroll wants in regards to his defense. Maybe we'll be a little bit more aggressive than what I think we saw under Chris Richard. A lot of people are not super high on Brian Schottenheimer. I think that will be big because there's a lot of talk about, stretch plays and play action and, moving Russell Wilson around and moving the running backs around so that, it creates a lot of these different looks that defenses can't just line up and say, oh, Darrell Beva offense, I know this lineup, I know exactly what you guys are going to do, and if I can beat my offensive lineman, it's a free path to Russell Wilson, and, hope he gets, scrambled out and you can get him. I think that's what's going to be really interesting and unique because, I'm preseason, it's not a game where you really fully concentrate on the end result, but you look at the kind of work that they're moving towards. What are the guys getting these snaps in the second drive after the starters get, and how good they look? Because that was one thing that I remember about preseason Seahawks. From at the very beginning of the Russell Wilson era in 2012, those guys were on fire for every single preseason game because they were so competitive, they were so hungry to play, they just did great and amazing things because they knew that it was competitive. They knew that it meant a big deal to get reps in a game, and that turned into starting jobs for a lot of them. So I think that's kind of what I'm hoping to see. Exactly what you were saying, Ross, let's see that fire, let's see that competition, and I hope that comes through all of the quarters, and that turns into guys that are, going to be great starters for us.
Yeah. I'm just to add on, as far as what we see as far as X's and O's goes, I'm kind of looking forward to the offense, but I'm also a little bit nervous. I don't think for most fans, it will be as different as we think it's going to look. We're not going to see the theory behind some of it, but I'm hoping for a little bit different play calling. But what I'm a little bit nervous is if they decide to play around with like the read option. Don't take that away. I don't want them to sit there going like, well, Russell Wilson's another year older, because back when they actually used that, I hope they do the study, and I hope they do their math, and I hope they understand that. You remember way back, somebody asked somebody about like does Marshawn Lynch help Russell Wilson? Does Russell Wilson help Marshawn Lynch? And they said both. And it was when you're running a lot of that option with Russell Wilson that it was actually adding a half-yard average per carry onto Marshawn Lynch's things.
Yeah.
Carry. So that extra threat there. I mean, I'm a little bit nervous that he'll tinker with the wrong stuff, but mostly I'm optimistic at this point.
I think that's a good place to be. Zeb, do you feel pretty optimistic, or are you ready to like burn it to the ground?
No, I'm kind of ready for anything. I don't know. I really feel like it could kind of go both ways. I mean, I know like kind of the common thought is that as long as we got Russell, we got 8 wins. You know what I mean? So yeah, sure, but anything could happen. I'm definitely keeping it open and not expecting good or bad necessarily. I just want to watch. I just want to see what happens.
All right. Well, speaking about good or bad, we've got topic number 3. So we are doing a new thing on the podcast. We are grabbing a topic from hawkscast.com, and it's now part of our spotlight, which is topic number 3, the Hawkscast Corner. So I'd like to thank Aureus from Hawkscast, Tony. He provided us with this topic, so if you haven't, go to hawkscast.com. There's a topic there already. I know Ross and we've commented, but topic number 3, how are we feeling about Earl Thomas now? And I'm actually going to read you guys his comments. For me, I can't forget his 100% all the time on the field performance. I think once he's on the field, nothing will stop him from giving his all. His off-field, though, man, this is taking some getting used to. I know there's a window in the NFL, and his Earl is working without a net, so I get it. But I'm feeling he's crossed from pushing for his professional needs just to being petulant now. What are your thoughts? So, Ross, I'm going to kick this off with you. How are you feeling about Earl Thomas right now?
I'm confused. I'm not confused. I'm just sad, I guess, disappointed.
Conflicted?
Yeah, I mean, it's very much how Tony wrote himself. I mean, he on the field, there's only him, and he is awesome, and there's nothing even close in my opinion. Even though the top tier safeties don't have some of the intangibles, I've never seen any other safety just have the knack for like the karate chop to the hand to get the ball out of the 1-inch line. It just
twice against the same team.
Exactly. And he's always been weird off the field. Like
super weird.
I mean, like who wears a crown to their wedding, man?
A king.
Yeah, but Cam Chancellor's holdout was not long ago, and Cam came back with his tail between his legs. He lost. There's no doubt he just lost. Because when it's a business. Even if you say the Seahawks sort of lost because they lost the 2 games, and so they should have budged. No. Because you got to run this for the long term. The Seahawks are not going to budge, and they're not going to even negotiate with him when he's not in camp, when he's not doing his job. So I don't understand what he doesn't understand. He is a smart guy, I believe, but he may just be football smart. I don't know. They're like there's the Richard Shermans and the Doug Baldwins that they're super smart outside of football as well. But maybe Earl Thomas is actually what he sometimes seems like. He is 100% a football dude, and now that he needs to get paid for football, he can't go about it the right way because, man, like Tony said, there's a small window for them to make money. But you know what? This is exactly how you don't get it. You want to make money, go make yourself indispensable. Either become even up your game even further. So the Seahawks would be a laughing stock to get rid of you. There is this element of PR to the world, obviously, especially these days. So if you just make it so you're such a fan favorite and so indispensable and so you're in this highlight reels every day, you make it so they have to keep you and they have to pay you. Or You just do your job really, really well, and so you play out your contract, and next year somebody pays you, and because they see you're not declining skills, and they pay you a huge amount because there's going to be a bidding war next year. You know, I mean, those are the ways you do it. You don't just go, okay, I'm not coming. You don't have somebody leaking stories saying, I'm selling my house. No, maybe Oakland too, come get me, Oakland. Like, it's just dumb. And, like, I gave him the benefit of the doubt when he went up to the coach of the Dallas Cowboys. Then, you know, we talked about this here as well. And said, come get me. And I was like, I don't think it was a big deal. But now I'm starting to think, yeah, it was a big deal.
Birdfinger80 chiming in on Twitch saying, I think he's realizing they're rebuilding in the rebuilding years, and he doesn't want to, quote-unquote, waste his final few years being a part of that. So it's the idea that we're not going to be as good as we used to be, and if he's not going to be on a good team, why bother? I think that's really...
But that's the problem. But see, the problem with that is, if they do trade him, he doesn't get a... He doesn't have a... This isn't baseball, right? He doesn't have a no-trade clause or a trade veto or whatever. They could go, you know what? If you're going to be a jerk about it, and we're not going to get your services anyway, we're going to get a 5th round for you and send you to Cleveland. So have a good time.
Zeb, how are you feeling about Earl Thomas right now?
Look, I think that Earl is as passionate off the field as he is on it. And I think he's also not the kind of person that's going to pretend to be something he isn't or act a certain way. He's going to act how he feels. He's just going to show us who he is, and how he feels, what he's all about. I think that's the Earl we get. I think there's 100% honesty there. And Ross, like, I totally understand what you're saying, and I think you're right. If somebody is able and willing to look at things logically and from a bigger picture perspective, you're right. But I think, as Birdfinger just mentioned, I think he's feeling that he might be wasted here at this point, and I also feel like he's feeling unwanted. I think he saw the way Sherm was treated, and he probably feels like that it wasn't right, and that he doesn't want to get the same treatment, and he'd rather not stick around if we're not willing to take care of him the way he wants to be taken care of. He'd rather move on to somebody who will. Whether that's going to happen or not, and especially the way he's going about it, whether that's the way that it's going to work, who knows? I don't know.
I mean, sorry, one sentence. Sorry, I'm being selfish here, but I want to say that.
Go ahead.
I 100% agree with you, and that's where I get to the point where I'm disappointed, because I always thought that, not that some of this was an act, but I sort of thought that when you got Earl Thomas in a room with his agent and a contract lawyer, and he sat down and somebody showed him the numbers, and somebody from the Seahawks front office sat down with him and kind of said, you know what, here's where we're at, that he would be the kind of person who would be amenable and understand things, at least a little bit. But he's turning out to have like that same, like when he describes football plays and he's got like 5 verbs and only 1 like noun in a sentence, and he's gonna have to kind of vaguely feel what Earl's trying to say.
It's a fever dream.
And it's cool, right? Right. I mean, like, that's just how he talks, right? He doesn't make a lot of sense, and that's okay because it's Earl. But when you make your business decisions, you can't make them the same whether you decide what angle to take on the football field, whether you're going to sacrifice your body in the game. It's like you got to use other parts of your brain, and I just feel disappointed because either he's being stubborn or he's getting horrible advice and doesn't understand it, and he can't see, like, his brother on the football field, Cam Chancellor, did this exact same thing really, really recently, and how did that turn out? And how is it? And you have no more leverage. But you don't want to be here. That makes me mad too, because if that's part of it, like, oh, we're rebuilding, we're not going to be as good, because that means he doesn't believe that, like, he doesn't believe in his coach, he doesn't believe in anything, because you know what? He was part of that. 2011, he came in 2010, whatever, and he was part of what brought it. And his brother, Cam Chancellor, was a 5th-round pick or 6th-round pick, and Richard Sherman was. And he was looking around the room now and going, you know what? These are 3rd-round picks and 4th-round picks waiting to take his job, and you don't think they can do it? Then what's wrong with you, man? Like, I don't want you either. If you don't believe in your staff, you don't believe in your coaching, and you think you were so awesome, but nobody else can ever be awesome because only your generation was going to be there, Bye, Felicia.
I don't know how much of that is accurate though. Like we talk about this that the idea that maybe he's feeling like he's being wasted or whatever because of the rebuilding. We don't know that that's true though.
We don't know nothing. That's what's
That's
hard.
speculation. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think, but what I do think is that we as fans, we get very caught up in the idea of our team. But make no mistake about it, when it comes down to it, none of these guys ultimately care which color their jersey is or what team they're playing for. They
Not
will
at this
buy
stage.
in and
Not
act
at this
the
stage of their
part
careers, yeah.
at whatever team. You know, with a few exceptions here and there, where you have a crybaby who refuses to play for a team or demands the trade because they don't want to be in Cleveland or
Larry
San
Fitzgerald,
Diego
who
or
refuses
whatever.
to play for anybody else.
Right. Yeah, you get outliers. But for the most part, these guys want a contract. They want to play ball. They want to practice as little as possible. You know what I mean? Like they just want to do their job and they don't care who it's for. So I think
he has a job though, and it's going to pay him $8.5 million.
Yeah, but
but he's looking at next year and the year after that.
I think what it comes down to is my feelings about Earl Thomas is this is the worst part about football. This is the worst part about being a fan, knowing that you have such limited control. You cheer for the players, but most likely you really cheer for the colors. You know, you're cheering for laundry. That's the joke. You're not cheering for Russell Wilson and Earl Thomas. You're cheering for the laundry that they're wearing. And to a degree, that's true because I'm a Seahawks fan first right now before anything else. Ross, I know it was different for you when you were talking about, you know, when they traded Zorn away, but for most people, I think
as an adult I've grown into that.
But that's again, it shows like maybe like maturity of a fan. But the situation with Earl Thomas is
Sam just called me mature.
You got me. But what it comes down to with Earl Thomas is I think we all feel the same way. Like a quick question to both of you guys. If given a chance, knowing that there are obviously limitations, would you want Earl extended, yes or no?
Ross will say no, and I will say yes.
Okay. Ross, is that true?
I'd want to see the numbers, but
What-
it's
what?
a declining contract. Even declining contract I'd sign it, but nobody does those.
Okay. So
If it goes like 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 million for 5, I mean, please.
all right.
If it was like 10, if he signed one that said like 10 this year, 11 next year, then 9, 7, 3, okay.
All right.
But we'll do that.
Birdfinger says that they would not extend Earl. So I think that's the other big thing. Like, there are so many people that have turned against Earl Thomas and have turned against his antics because I think the Seahawks have been bitten by it. We look at extensions to Cliff Averill, to Cam Chancellor, to Marshawn Lynch, to Michael Bennett, and to Richard Sherman. All 5 of those guys, the contract extensions have quote unquote backfired due to injuries, due to attitude, and due to retirement. Obviously, some of those are a combination of multiple issues. But as fans, we see how much money is sucked up due to dead cap and retired players that really have controlled what we've done this off season. And that really impacted Seattle in a really negative way because it totally restricted what we as a team could do. And this is the NFL. This is like the painstaking problem of the NFL is it's hard to keep the family together. It's hard. And we've been talking about this for years. Like, oh, I don't think we should extend this guy because we need to extend this guy. We can't have this much money tied into this position because, you know, it restricts our ability to get that key free agent. And we've talked about it, and that's all true. And this is like the aftermath of that. This is the aftermath of trying to keep the family together, and all of a sudden the family starts stabbing each other in the back or having hurt feelings or not being able to grow up and like get over like these really, really, painful events, like not getting a second Super Bowl. I mean, Ross, you talked about that earlier. Like, that is a defining moment in the Seahawks franchise for every one of those players on this team. Everyone that's been impacted with what Earl Thomas is going through right now could be somewhat drawn to that event and the coaching staff and all the changes that we're seeing this year. So that's how I think we as fans are feeling. We're feeling like, well, we really have no choice. We have no other options to think about other than to say, you know what, Earl, show up if you can, but you're not going to get a contract. And if you do show up and you keep demanding stuff, you're going to get traded to Cleveland. Have fun, living your wasted year, a team that is not going to win more than 3 games, maybe 2.
Cleveland's on the up and up.
Yeah, they might win 3. They win like 3, but and I think that's frustrating as a fan to know that that's the situation that the team is in, because it's not that Earl's a bad player, but what's his mindset? The Seahawks are not going to extend him if he doesn't show up to camp, and they can't judge where he is. Tony even said he thinks he's going to get 100% on the field, but I don't know if everyone thinks that's enough anymore.
I want to ask a question. I don't know exactly how to do this, but I think I have an idea. I want the salary cap totally in place, but I want veteran salaries as their career deepens. It counts as a percentage of their salary. In other words, if you're for example, a 5th or 6th year veteran and you have a $10 million contract, at that point, only 80% of your contract, for example, counts against the cap. So they give a chance for veterans to earn money, and you give a chance for like hometown heroes to stay in their hometown. Would you guys be?
No, cool? I wouldn't do it, because then it looks like the NBA's shitty model with their salary cap. So I'd say a hard no.
No.
Yeah,
I think there could be something there, something that we could work out.
Like
they already do something.
The merits of your plan, it keeps the family together, but I think it ruins the product long term. And right now we're suffering for it as fans because we're handcuffed by the cap with our team. But I think it makes the NFL a worse product.
Fair enough. You're probably right, but sometimes I wonder, like, if it's also a worse product that, as a fan, I guess I don't want to sometimes root just purely for laundry. I kind of wish that, yesterday I wore my Earl Thomas jersey to the Mariners game, and I know that really aggravates people who are baseball first, but you know what? At least I'm at the game. People who live in Seattle don't go to the game, so you know what? Shut up. Anyway, I'm at the game, I'm in my Earl Thomas jersey, and I was thinking, you know what? This is probably the last time I'm going to wear it.
I'll take it off your hands.
I'm not going to sell it.
I'll just wear it. You don't have to sell it to me. Just give it to me.
I'm not going to wear it to training camp, because I feel like if I wear it to training camp, I'm making some sort of statement that I don't want to make. And I don't really think it's going to be here come September, maybe. And this is weird. Watching the Marshawn Lynch tape we talked about earlier, I kind of don't want him on him anymore, because that's what actually made me realize what Sammy was just talking about. That second, until now, I never saw in the same way. I've always known there was some psychological damage to that second Super Bowl loss, but I now think it is so deep. I hadn't considered the depth of it. There are people out there who are like, we won Super Bowl. We could have won 2 back-to-back, something that almost is never ever done anymore. And the pain of that moment destroyed everything. It destroyed people's psyche. And I'm like, if Earl's suffering from that as well, and he's kind of effective, and he's like a symbol of it as well, that generation, I'm ready to say goodbye. I'm shocked at myself, but I think I am. And I want to see what those 3rd and 4th rounders from last year can do.
Tough love. That's the NFL, man. Tough love. Got to say goodbye to your heroes.
It sucks. It really, really, really sucks. And like I said, that's why I'm sort of nostalgic for that day before free agency where, like, you knew Dan Dornick was going to be on your team until he retired, because nobody's ever going to trade for Dan Dornick. You can have hometown, small-time heroes, and you can have big-time stars who are never, ever going to leave. It's not fair to them if they're locked in, so you got to find another way to take care of it and make it fair just so they can earn. But can't we find a way they can earn, but we can also keep our own? Can't we all just get along?
Yeah, but I think this is the perspective that we're looking at it as a perennial playoff team. The fact that we haven't made the playoff for the first time in 6 years, we've missed the playoff twice in the past 8 years.
Thanks, Jim Mora.
That's crazy numbers, Yeah. So.
I'm with you. I'm among us three. I'm usually the cold-hearted bitch guy who's like, "Nah, cut him."
Yeah, but one last thing, and then we'll move on. We all have a story of a favorite Seahawk that has been cut, traded away, or let go. We're not even talking about like the players in this current era. There are players that we all have loved and adored, and would want to see retire as Seahawks, but they were let go. It's so rare for players to leave on their own because of the way that the sport is built and the way the salary cap is structured. but we're viewing it as a franchise that is in this model where we're perennial playoff contenders, and for a strong portion, we were Super Bowl favorites. There's a lot of teams out there that are nowhere close to that. And the NFL does this purposely. As much as maybe it pains us as fans, it makes it for a better overall product that, as shitty as the Cleveland Browns are right now, they could be a contender in 2 years, if they make the right decision.
That's probably a bad example.
but I mean, that's obviously the joke. It's like, they've had a chance for a dozen years and it's never come to fruition. But, the Jaguars are a perfect example of that, where all of a sudden, they're pushing like, 2 bad drives away from maybe beating the Patriots in the AFC Championship game,
Yep.
All right.
Absolutely.
Let's go on a high note. Let's talk about topic number 4. Zeb, I'm going to hit you with this first. What aspect of this team do you have the most confidence in?
God, I really don't know at this point. I don't even know what the team looks like anymore. You know what I think? I think that barring catastrophic injury, I have the most confidence in our offensive line getting better.
Nowhere to go but up. Nowhere to go but up, right?
Whoa.
Well, I look at on paper. I look at our starting line, our potential starting line, our probable starting line, and it looks like a good offensive line to me. And we've made coaching changes, and we have some veterans, some Pro Bowlers. I don't know. Like, I feel like that group has the potential to turn into what we've wanted them to be for years. And I honestly have confidence that it's going to work out.
Wow.
Zeb going big. He's shocking Ross.
Dude, that's deep.
Well, I was going to say Russell, but at this, that's boring. Exactly. And secondly, like, I don't know that I do have that confidence in Russell. Like,
what?
Yeah.
What?
Now you sounded like me.
Now that's more shocking.
Today the part of Russell will be played by Zebulon Dak.
I mean, look, I see Hollywood Russell Wilson out there living his best life, and I have nothing but respect and admiration for it. But I don't know. Is football his first love anymore?
You know what?
Hold on.
We had that concern like 2 years ago, and he's only put up like amazing records and numbers. Yes, the team hasn't done as well.
It's something that's continuing, and it's something that's growing. His personality.
It's a confidence issue. I get it. It's not necessarily black and white. It's more opinion. I get it, but
I'm not saying he's going to fail. I'm just saying, anything could happen.
He may not have the Tiger.
He's got a lot going on. He's getting older. He's got kids. He's married to freaking Sierra.
He's Rocky 3.
He's got Future, who potentially has a hit out on him for calling his son. I don't know. He's pushing products. He's out there dancing, and
he just came back from China.
I love every minute
China.
of it, but I don't know that it gives me the most confidence in him as the leader of this team as the starting quarterback.
I just want to point out, I said that this was the trend it was going to when he was an Entourage, and you guys laughed at me.
I don't laugh at you. I just don't think it's a big deal. No, I just don't think it's a big deal. Russell Wilson is corny AF. That's the confidence that I have in him. He will continue to be that way.
He's cute too, though.
Russ,
he's a good-looking dude. He seems more like a good-looking dude. I feel like he belongs like in Eddie Murphy and Prince and Michael Jackson, like good-looking time.
All right, Ross, who do you have what aspect of this team do you have the most confidence in? Going into training camp, what do you think? Hey, I'm going to be impressed. I'm going to be wowed. What are you expecting for this team?
Expecting or expecting? Okay, so
confidence, because confidence is not hope.
Okay, so it's going to be coaching staff, and I don't think it's close. Like
Schottenheimer and Ken Norton.
Yeah, all the defensive dudes. Okay, you kind of suspected it when what's his name went to Atlanta and another
Dan Quinn.
like when Dan Quinn left, and you kind of felt like the defense was kind of like loyal to him, and they really, really weren't that loyal to Chris Richard, and then when Dan Quinn, it wasn't just the Dan Quinn, you suspected that the hardcore guys, they wanted Ken Norton to get the job, and now he's back.
Yeah, are those hardcore guys Michael Bennett and Richard Sherman and Cam Chancellor?
Yeah,
Cliff
that's
Averill?
okay. That's okay because it's not because it's them. It's like the guys who think like that, like, and those are the guys who you kind of need. They were, they're not always the nicest guys to get along with, but those are the guys who are going to lead the defense, and the guys who kind of like I think see football at a different level, who have like the right balance of intellectual but also like raw football stuff going on. They want it, and so I'm really, really happy. I know some people are kind of scared, but I want Ken Norton back.
I love Ken Norton's passion, and I feel like as a linebackers, as a position coach under established defensive coordinator, he was perfect. I have to see how he does as far as game planning, that sort of thing.
Yeah, I mean,
the grand scheme of things.
But I'm confident, and I'm pretty like Schottenheimer's all like mixed success up to this point, but he's never worked with Pete Carroll before, and I really like that aspect. Like he has some amazing ideas and some good ideas, and there's a lot to work with in my opinion. This time actually coming around, got some better talent at running back now. Tight end position's been reinforced. Some question marks at wide receiver, but there's some talent there. Like you guys said, the offensive line, it looks on paper better. Russell Wilson's still the age as a quarterback. He should still be getting better. Everybody's down in Seattle. Like, we don't all a big question mark. And yeah, there's a lot of ifs, but man, there's a lot of potential here. And I like this. I like the stuff they've collected together to make them Solari. I like this. I like
Solari. I mean, that's part of the reason why I talked about the offensive line the way I did.
I just really like the talent they've assembled to coach up these players. And until this week, you guys talked to me in the offseason. I was down, but this week I've thought about it, and I was preparing for this podcast and reading up on everything, and I'm turned around. I really think this is a 2011 type situation. The defense isn't going to look exactly like it did before, but they might have to get more creative, but it's still going to be effective. Maybe we're going to see 6 defensive backs out there again. Remember we all excited about that bandit package back in 2011 when they didn't have to use it anymore?
Yeah.
Because they got more talented. But, I mean, like, I'm excited. And again, it's because of the coaching staff. I think they've still got it. I think they're still Marky Mark in it to win it.
I sure hope you're right. Sammy, what do you think?
Real quick, Birdfinger chiming in again saying, I got a real good feeling that some of the stars will emerge on the D-line. Deion Jordan and Marcus Smith will surprise. Frank Clark, 15 sacks. Yeah, I said it. So, Birdfinger going big and confidence in the D-line.
Jaron Reed.
Yeah.
Nas.
Jordan is legit, man.
If we're talking D-line, I'm looking forward to Poona Ford. On name alone, undrafted free agent, that's who I'm going to be looking for, because I've been hearing a lot of stuff about him coming into the draft, and the fact that they got him as an undrafted free agent, that's the dude I'm looking for on the D-line. But the aspect of this team that I'm most confident in, I think it kind of harkens back to what Ross was saying, and it's looking for that 2011, 2012 like competition mode. I'm confident that is what will push the Seahawks back into what we have traditionally seen, this hyper-competitive, hyper-alpha male society that they're going to just go crazy with. The Seahawks have always had like weird training camp and preseason issues where like there's a little bit of snippiness, a little bit of infighting between the offense and the defense, and I think that potentially could spur us to the success that we saw in the past, because not that breeds success, but it's breeding competition. It's breeding people to get better and better. Richard Sherman always says, everyone's playing checkers, but the Seahawks are playing chess, and you can only get to that level if you practice super hard and if you study the game. A lot of the reasons why these guys were let go is because they couldn't come to practice anymore. Earl Thomas couldn't come to practice. Michael Bennett wasn't healthy enough to practice. Marshawn Lynch wasn't healthy enough to practice. And that makes a huge impact on what the Seahawks want to do, because the NFL is the one sport where you spend 100 times practicing and training and studying than you do playing the game versus every other sport. So that's what I'm confident in. It's going to be the push to compete is what's going to spur them to success.
I like it.
So that's my confidence. I just had to build myself up. Otherwise, I feel I'd fall flat. So that's my spiel.
If you then say we're going 6-10, I'm gonna slap you.
We're not gonna do record predictions until before the season. But depending on how these preseason games go and training camps go, we'll see. But those are our topics for today. We're gonna do some predictions. What was that?
Let's do our mini predictions.
All right, so we got our FanTable predictions. So this one, we're going to go quarterback, and we're going to say who gets the most snaps. So at the quarterback position, who's going to get the most snaps in these first two preseason games? Alex McGough or Austin Davis? Zeb, what quarterback are you feeling?
I think it'll maybe Davis in the first game, and then I'll go McGough. McGough's going to get the most snaps. We know what we have in Davis.
Yeah.
Is that how we pronounce his name? Really?
It's McGough.
Yeah,
Like
McGough.
Yeah,
oh
Mr.
God,
McGough.
That sucks. I'm going to change my answer then.
On name alone, Ross is defaultly going to Austin Davis.
Holy crap, I can't say McGough for something like reasonable.
Oh man, he's McGough. It's the best.
It's McGough.
That's awful.
The McGough era has begun.
I agree with going to be McGough that gets the snaps because, I mean, you know what you have in Davis, right? I mean, there's nothing to be learned there. So let's find out if this rookie guy could be awesome and we could cut Wilson and save some salary cap.
This guy's going to be playing the entirety of the second half.
May I remind you,
Throughout
Russell
preseason.
Wilson started as a rookie.
Yeah.
Right?
I think it's going to be Austin Davis. I think the Seahawks are in a period where they know that Magoo's not going to be ready. They're going to try and stash him on the practice squad. I think it's reasonable to expect Austin Davis.
Practice squad staff.
Yeah, I think it's reasonable to expect Austin Davis to get most of the snaps. All right, running back.
If he changed his name to McGough, would you change your mind?
No. He's riding the pine for sure.
Right.
Who's getting most running snaps at running back? Chris Carson or Rashad Penny? Zeb.
Penny.
Penny
A
getting
little
more
bit.
snaps?
I don't know. I think Carson's probably going to start. They'll probably get him out of there early.
Ross,
especially coming off the injury. Let Penny fucking pound it.
Yeah. Ross, what about you? Who got?
I'm in for a penny, in for a pound.
In for a penny, in for a pound? Man, you guys are going with the youngins. Chris Carson's going to get most of the snaps.
In preseason?
In preseason.
I feel like everything you said about Chris Carson is a smokescreen because you don't say how awesome you thought it was going to be and then like go him in the first round to take his job.
No, but I think also the Seahawks, the reason why they got Rashad Penny is because he has been super durable. And all the guys that they have on their roster, minus this, a CJ McKissick, have not been healthy. And that's been a huge detriment to the team. I also think that there's no value in giving Penny all the preseason snaps if they're going to use him for the long haul. They need to figure out if Chris Carson is healthy or not. And they're going to find that out in training camp and with actual reps. You know Penny's going to be healthier as long as there's something freak happening. That's why I think it's important for them to see Chris Carson first. He's going to get the first few reps and the most snaps.
They'll get the first team reps, but
this just says most snaps, not best.
He's coming off an injury. They're gonna probably take it easy on him at first.
I don't know. I mean, he's a 7th round pick. You don't lose anything by running him into the ground to see what you got.
Unless you legitimately think he's your starter.
And that's what I think they want to figure out. I mean, I'm more than willing to accept that Rashad Penny could win this job and he could be the guy coming out of the gate in game 1. But I think they want to see Carson. All right, now to the super stats. Punter, John Ryan or Michael Dickson? Zeb.
Little Michael Dickson.
Okay. Ross.
Yeah, Dickson saves us $3 million, so bye Ryan.
And he's the best punter of all time already.
He won the MVP of a bowl game.
Yeah.
Like a group of people like didn't even laugh and like voted for the punter. Maybe they were laughing and voted for the
ever since he left his group, the Dickson 5, and went solo, Michael Dickson is the king of
punting. Yeah, I have to agree with you guys. I think it's again based upon the numbers. It makes sense to give the young guy, as long as he doesn't crap his pants, he's going to get a lot of opportunity in camp and also for those real snaps.
I expect Ryan to be punting for the Cardinals come September.
That would probably suck. Right.
For the kickers, we've got Sebastian Janikowski or what's his name? Mike Myers?
Chris Myers?
Chris Myers? Something Myers. He's a kicker. We don't know his name. Birdfinger says that Michael Dickson is a legend in Austin for all those UT fans.
In Austin and in Australia.
And in Australia.
Austria is next.
Australia.
Gonna take Europe by storm.
Auschwitz. I don't know.
Ouch.
All right, which kicker are you guys going for, Zeb?
Seabass.
Seabass?
Myers. I mean, I have a lot of in-depth insight on him. I'm gonna go with Myers.
He's gonna kick more for sure. Myers is gonna.
Janikowski is mediocre. That's just like bringing in he's actually not that accurate. He has a really big leg, so you can occasionally kick a 60-yarder, but it's not really much of a bump up from the Blair Witch Project.
Right. Well, plus he's 52, so they're not gonna have him out there kicking a bunch of balls during the preseason.
They're overcorrecting because Blair Walsh had such a limp noodle leg. They're going with Seabass, who has a super leg. That's what they're doing here.
I don't like it. I don't like the signing.
I don't want to see Janikowski in any uniform except a Raiders uniform. Come on.
Yeah. All right.
Oh, well.
Preseason MVP. Who's gonna wow you and carry the team in preseason this year?
Griffin.
Which one?
Griffin?
The younger Griffin.
They're the same age. They're the twins.
Well,
newer Griffin.
Shaquem is technically younger,
Do you know
I believe.
which one was actually born first?
Yeah, it was Shaquille.
Shaquille's born first. He's older by like a few seconds.
The older brother.
You guys are annoying.
Ross, who's your preseason MVP?
I'm split. Can I give two answers?
Yeah.
No.
Always
it's going to be McGough and Penny. No, honestly.
The guy you don't even want to vote for is who's going to get the most snaps.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's unfortunate his parents didn't change the name at some point. But, by the fourth game, there's a small but vocal segment of Seattle saying, you know what, we should start McGough. That would save so much money, and he's young and hungry, and Russell Wilson spends too much time in Africa teaching poor children to play football when they should be getting food. So
that's hardcore. My preseason MVP, I don't know. I don't have a clue.
You got to pick somebody.
You got to pick somebody, man.
Earl Thomas.
No. CJ Procise, because he won't break his leg in preseason. He'll break it in the first game.
Yeah, not until week 2.
Yeah.
I thought they would trade Procise by now.
Last one. Prediction is, how long does Earl Thomas's holdout go?
I'll tell you exactly how long his holdout goes. His holdout goes for as long as it takes us to figure out if we have somebody that can start and be good enough in his place. Once we figure that out, we trade him if we don't need him. We sign him if we do.
All right. Ross?
I don't know how it's going to end, but I don't think there's an ending of it. That he's just going to go till he gets traded. We're not going to see Earl in the Seahawks jersey again, I don't think.
I think it's going to go the Joey Galloway route. He's going to sit out the first 8 games, kind of show up for the last 8, and then get traded in the offseason.
That sucks. I don't want that to happen.
That's the worst. I mean, that's one more thing. Why everybody gotta ruin the golden years like this? Why is Richard Sherman got to talk like this now? And why is everybody be such a fucking child? Come on, man.
Grown men.
Can't we all just go right off in the sunset?
It's grown men getting paid thousands and millions of dollars to play a game. That's what it is.
It's a job. It's a hard.
It's a job. It's a hard job, but at the end of it, they get to play a game that I think all of us really, really love and enjoy. Right?
In 10 years, when all the stuff has come out about what really happened, I hope that we're able to have the Legion of Boom reunion that we all deserve.
When they, all 4 of them, Brandon Browner included, after he gets out of jail, raise the 12th man flag together, I'll cream my pants.
I'm going to that game.
Yeah. We'll find a way. But that is our podcast. First off, I want to thank Ross and Zed for joining us as always. Check us out at Seahawks Podcast. Check out the hawkscastforum.com or go to Seahawks Forum on Twitter. Shout-outs, gentlemen.
I got three. Check out Triple B Podcast. Just Google it. I don't care how you get there. Check it out. Go to bigboxtc.com. I'm selling toys now. That's my side hustle. And if you are in the Northwest or the greater Portland metropolitan area more specifically, check out zebdak.com if you're interested in coming to a professional recording studio and becoming a music superstar. Because that's what we make over there is superstars out of nobodies like you.
Nice.
That's where I recorded my first hit single. Oh, wait, that's where I didn't record.
Ross, any shout-outs?
Nah.
All right. I want to thank Tony Aureus for dropping us a great topic for us for topic number 3.
Your line kind of sucks.
I want to thank everyone for listening. Birdfinger, thank you very much for chiming in. Love seeing you chiming on the Twitch.
My shout-out's Birdfinger.
All right, so Ross shouting out.
I want to shout out Birdfinger.
We're all shouting out to Birdfinger.
Dibs. I called it.
All right. We are the Seahawks FanTable Podcast. Check us out on Twitter. Check us out at hawkscast.com. We're happy that the season started. We'll be back in a couple of weeks after the preseason games. But for now, go Hawks.
Go Hawks.